I ate 1,000 sardines. Yes, an entire month fueled almost exclusively by small fish from a can. Why would anyone do this? And what happened to my body along the way? For an entire month, my daily routine revolved around peeling open tin after tin of sardines until I had eaten a total of 1,000 of them. It wasn't a dare, a challenge someone forced on me, or a moment of lost judgment. It was a deliberate self-experiment to see what would happen if I relied almost entirely on one of the most nutritionally dense foods available. At some point in the middle of the process, the absurdity of it all really hit me. Whole sardines, the skin, the bones, everything, aren't just a simple food. They're like compact nutritional units packed with protein, omega-3 fats, minerals, and essential vitamins. They're strangely complete, and that completeness is what made me wonder what would happen if I leaned on them as a primary fuel source. What started as innocent curiosity quickly grew into a full commitment. Every day meant more sardines, more routine, and more notes about how my body reacted. I didn't expect much, but by the end of 30 days, my physiology had changed in ways I had never imagined. My omega-3 levels climbed so high that they exceeded typical human ranges. My energy rose, I leaned out, and a few unexpected, and sometimes uncomfortable, side effects emerged. Somewhere in the second week, while writing down observations, I caught myself scribbling, "My name is Alex Carter, and I officially regret choosing sardines again today." That was the only moment I allowed myself a hint of internal complaining before continuing the experiment. The rest of the story explains everything I discovered, how sardines at this scale affected my metabolism, my strength, my mental clarity, my hormones, and even my appearance, including one effect that was so unpleasant it nearly made me stop the experiment. I'll also explain a structured protocol that someone could follow if they wanted to try a safer version of what I attempted. The first week was the quickest to change me. In just a few days, I lost 6 pounds while maintaining the same strength levels. I felt more energetic, lighter, and strangely resistant to cold temperatures, as if my internal thermostat had shifted upward. But shortly after that early burst of positive momentum, things changed. Before going deeper, it helps to understand the flow of this experience. First, the personal story with all the odd moments, then the scientific explanation of why sardine fasting can be so powerful, and finally, the practical steps for doing it intentionally rather than blindly. When I first set out, the structure was very simple: sardines and electrolytes, nothing else. The idea was to unlock some of the benefits of fasting while still providing enough essential nutrients to avoid losing muscle. Sardines contain a rare combination of omega-3 fats, complete protein, minerals like calcium and selenium, vitamin D, creatine, and supportive cofactors. In theory, this could activate fasting-related pathways without the full stress of not eating at all. The daily amount I followed was roughly 100 grams of sardines for every 50 pounds of body weight. For the first few days, everything felt incredible. I had sharper energy, my body felt light, and workouts felt smooth and efficient. But around the end of the first week, everything dipped hard. My energy collapsed. Workouts felt heavy. I felt drained and foggy, and I couldn't figure out what had changed. For people who start out lean, extended low-calorie stretches can trigger the body to conserve energy aggressively. It turns down motivation, reduces output, and slows everything. To fix this, I added fat, mostly olive oil, sometimes MCT oil, and occasionally coconut oil. The change was immediate. Within a day, the sluggishness disappeared and my vitality came back in full force. After that adjustment, the sardine-centric routine was much easier to handle, physically speaking. As the month continued, my body composition shifted dramatically. I dropped to around 7% body fat, maintained all my strength, and felt surprisingly agile. I even developed random urges to hang upside down or do handstands for no real reason. It was a strange but memorable pattern. Another odd effect appeared: cold tolerance. I could walk outside in near freezing temperatures with very little discomfort. Research suggests that omega-3 fats can increase thermogenesis, essentially helping the body generate more heat under cold stress, and this lined up perfectly with what I was feeling. The bloodwork results were even more surprising. When I tested my omega-3 index, the results didn't just improve, they surpassed the upper end of the lab's reference range. The chart that topped out around 14% wasn't high enough for my score. Humans rarely reach that zone because it's more common in marine animals adapted to cold oceans. There isn't much research on the physiological consequences of levels this high, but I felt more energized, more focused, and more physically driven than usual. One unexpected example of this shift was my new habit of climbing multiple flights of stairs just because it felt good. Not only could I do it, but I barely felt winded afterward. But not everything improved. A major downside appeared, one so unpleasant that it nearly made me stop the experiment altogether. At some point, the sardines didn't just influence my meals, they influenced my smell. Not my breath, my actual skin. It was as if the oils seeped into my pores. Even after scrubbing and covering myself in cologne, the scent refused to disappear. This created real problems at home. Physical closeness became uncomfortable for my partner, who made it clear the sardine smell was overwhelming. I even recorded these reactions as data. On days when sardine intake was especially high, the number of affectionate interactions dropped to 0. The smell was simply too much. If anyone considers doing a sardine-heavy diet, warning the people around you is not optional, it's essential. To understand why all these changes happened, it helps to look at the biology. Sardines are incredibly nutrient-dense. They pack bioavailable protein, EPA and DHA, calcium, vitamin D, selenium, B12, creatine, and CoQ10, all in one tiny package. They're essentially a complete nutritional system in a small, inexpensive form. A sardine-focused routine tends to be low in carbohydrates, low in calories overall, and low in total protein volume, but densely rich in essential amino acids and micronutrients. This pattern can activate fasting-like pathways, including cellular cleaning and enhanced fat metabolism, while still protecting muscle tissue. Omega-3 fats also play a major role. They support muscle retention, reduce inflammation, support mitochondrial function, and improve cognitive clarity. Sardines naturally contain creatine amounts similar to common supplement doses, and CoQ10 helps with energy production at the cellular level. Low overall protein intake mixed with high nutrient density can also trigger a hormone called FGF21, which boosts metabolic rate and supports muscle preservation. Some research suggests it may increase daily calorie burning substantially. During the experiment, my ketone levels stayed elevated, the kind normally seen in extended fasting, which contributed to mental clarity, fat burning, and stable energy. When all of these elements come together, the body enters a state that burns fat, protects muscle, reduces inflammation, supports cellular cleaning, and heightens daily energy output, all powered by a single small fish. For anyone curious about trying a structured sardine routine, the safest approach is straightforward. Choose whole sardines with skin and bones, use brine or olive oil versions. A reasonable daily amount is around 1 tin for every 50 pounds of body weight. Aim for adequate sodium, around 3,000 milligrams per day, and add fats like olive oil or MCT oil if you're naturally lean. This can be used as a quick metabolic reset, a short travel routine, or a structured temporary diet. My personal routine during the experiment was mostly sardines during the day and a single low-carb meal at night that didn't include sardines, except for one birthday celebration that turned into an accidental cheese overload. After concluding the 30-day run, I realized that sardine fasting is a strange metabolic paradox. You're technically eating, yet your body behaves as if you're fasting. High ketones, strong energy, preserved muscle, and improved metabolic markers. The approach is simple and surprisingly effective, though the smell factor is absolutely something not to underestimate. That was the full experience, the 1-month, 1,000 sardine experiment and all its intensity, benefits, surprises, and challenges.